It's Steelers-Jets week, which means the Steelers got to get a win before the gauntlet of really tough teams starts on their schedule. We're going to break down everything we've been hearing at practice, whether Micah Fitzpatrick will play, but also we heard some interesting comments from Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, about the Steelers offense that's been extremely struggling. Breaking all that down with a preview of the game. I'm Chris Carter, host of the North Shore Drive podcast of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by beat writer Brian Batko. It's going to be a fun episode, everybody. Let's get into it.
You are now listening to the North Shore Drive podcast, a show on all things Pittsburgh sports from the writers of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, hosted by Christopher Carter.
And welcome to the North Shore Drive podcast of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with my friend, my guest, my fellow writer at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Brian Batko. Brian, it is the Friday episode, which means we're previewing for an upcoming game. The Steelers play the Jets. We talked about it with Jason Mackey that this is a must win. But I wanted to talk to you about what you saw, at practice and after practice with Matt Canada's comments. And because he spoke to the media as he does every Thursday. But he had like an interesting tone about his struggling offense. And I wanted you to give some insight on that.
Yeah, I thought it was notable, I guess, that, pretty standard stuff early on in our weekly interview with Canada. I mean, he's consistent, Chris, in that he's never going to lay a lot of blame on the players or point fingers at who's not executing, and that at the end of the day, it all falls on him because he's the coordinator, he's the play caller, and he'll only talk about what he can do better. But, he mentioned that there's a million reasons why the offense isn't scoring enough points. And somebody asked, can you share just a few of those with us? And he said, no. And I think he realized, wait a second, hold on. I don't have a leg to stand on right now to simply be that terse in my reply. So he kind of got we saw a much more human side of him, where he was like, I'm not trying to minimize your question. I get it. It's very fair to be asking this right now, but everything we're going over in the meetings with the players and how I'm coaching them behind closed doors, essentially, I'm not going to put it out here on Front Street for you guys in the media and for the outside world to see. I know that doesn't really satiate fans' desires for answers and insight on why things aren't working. But I mean, just look at how the Steelers operate from the top, right? Mike Tomlin is he's a big fan of one-word answers when necessary. So we know that they don't really love to peel back the curtain on a lot of that stuff. So I thought Canada was better on, I guess, some more positive questions that we asked. He said Jaylen Warren has been giving them more than they expected, even than when they saw him in training camp. They love what he's doing in pass protection, running, catching the ball. But certainly in the big picture, there's still a lot that needs to be tweaked and improved. And he wasn't all that candid when it comes to offering up what they're going to do. I guess we'll just have to wait and see on Sunday.
And I think there's a lot of questions about Matt Canada right now. And obviously he doesn't want to divulge everything that's going on behind him. That's what coaches are supposed to not do. They're not going to give you everything that's behind the curtain. By the way, as we're preparing for this game, and as you're preparing for this game, remember that we have given you, with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Acrisure Fan Advantage, the power to project one of our Post-Gazette Steelers beat writers into your home or office by using the augmented reality. You can get an exclusive pregame breakdown from a Steelers expert standing right in your living room. Get the latest insights on starting lineups, key matchups, and critical stats at post-gazette.com/Acrisure Fan Advantage. No apps or downloads, just insider access to Steelers updates at post-gazette.com/Acrisure Fan Advantage. Brian, this week it's me, baby.
You were dripped out, Chris.
Yes, sir. I was out there looking fresh with my custom suit. I was feeling good. It was
You made me look bad. I just rocked a casual sweater and jeans. So, but that's more my style. You are a man of wealth and taste. So you had to be swagging through there.
One of those things. We'll go with the taste part. But let's get back into this coordinator talk, because I do think there's more to pick apart here, because there's also been the narrative that the Steelers are pointing fingers at each other, especially the offensive side of the ball, and it's your fault. It's your fault.
We talked about it last week, right? After the game.
We did, and it's like I get it. There's frustration, and this is a young offense. There's no old man Ben Roethlisberger at the top to kind of like that. No one can kind of say anything about. This is kind of a new situation. But as we've talked about before in the show, and we should talk about again, when you look harder at the quotes and put them in proper context, everyone's kind of saying the same thing. Like we just have to execute. That's all they seem to be saying about what the Steelers offense has to do to get better. Even George Pickens, who is visibly frustrated on the field, is like, look, this is a special group that we've got here.
Yeah, we talked to Pickens after practice on Thursday, and he kind of said, look, I can't be in Mitch Trubisky's head. I can't tell you exactly what his process is on every throw, but basically, I sure hope that the catch I made down the sideline will put some more trust in Mitch to, just kind of throw me the ball, even if it looks like I'm not open. And I thought it was really interesting to read this week on ESPN's site from their analytics team. Maybe you saw this, Chris, that, they have this new wide receiver metric that they're using to kind of score how open guys are getting, even when they're not targeted on a route. Pickens ranked really low in that. So, maybe that's just a byproduct of being an outside guy who's running a lot of deep routes and a cornerback's in phase with him. But to him, he thinks he's open if he's in one-on-one coverage. Other end of the spectrum, Deontay Johnson had their highest open score, as they called it on the ESPN analytics site, which I think we're kind of seeing that with the eye test. So just some more kind of food for thought when it comes to evaluating this offense right now, and specifically the receiver group. Are they doing enough? Should they be doing more? How much are they at fault? So, I think everybody right now needs to kind of insulate, and it's probably natural that, 15 minutes after the game, there's going to be frustrations, and maybe you don't voice everything exactly how you mean to say it. Whereas, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, a week later, that's cooled off considerably, and you're probably more in the mindset of, okay, I've watched the film. There's a lot of things I can be doing better too. That's kind of what we need to get back to this week.
They need to get back to it at some point, because this offense, no one expected this offense to light it up this year. But there was an expectation for there to be some competence, and it's not exactly been shown so far.
Maybe that's why I'm not panicking as much as some, because I never thought that this offense was going to be really good or productive, and especially not from Jump Street with all the new faces and shuffling parts. But I understand that when you see it actually happening in person, or in the case of the Steelers offense not happening, it's frustrating, and the natural response is to be concerned.
I agree, and that's why fans are so concerned, and I think that's why the Steelers are concerned. But they are more so like, there are others like, hey, it takes time. They're going to work to fix it. We'll see if they take a step towards fixing it Sunday.
Yeah, nobody that we talked to in the locker room this week, Chris, said, yes, I'm hitting the panic button. I am panicking. I'm asking for a trade. I'm basically going to go AB and take my jersey off on the sideline. Yeah, didn't hear any of that.
None of that so far. But again, I think it shows that people believe that something is cooking there, whether it's going to be something great and tasty. What is your least tastiest meal that everyone always tries to push on you, Brian? There's like me, it's potato salad. Everyone thinks, oh, you're going to love my potato salad. I hate potato salad. I don't care if your mother made it, my mama made it. It is nasty. Is there a dish?
I hate potato salad as well, Chris. I hate macaroni salad. I'm not a mayo guy at all.
Yes.
But I don't know, most overrated dish. I've got two contenders.
Okay.
I would eat them both, but they're not. I think they're overrated. Meatloaf and lasagna.
Okay. Meatloaf, I feel you. Lasagna, get the heck out of here right now.
I'm not a big ricotta cheese guy either. So.
Well, I get that though. I get that's along the lines. But lasagna, a good lasagna, I can eat. Not everybody's lasagna. There's certain times like it has to have the right kind of spice to it. But I feel you.
Now that I think about it, I might go lasagna over like just basic straight plain spaghetti.
Okay.
To me, that's like, you just got angel hair pasta with some red sauce on it. Like, I don't know. That's
I
not
mean,
doing it. That's not doing a ton.
Somebody did you wrong because that means they didn't put the peppers in it. That means they didn't put some paprika in it. They didn't spice it up. Regular spaghetti, yes, very bland. Why did I eat that? But when you make it the right way, it's fire. The one thing though that I got flamed for about 2 weeks ago on that Twitter app was when I admitted to everyone that I don't put sauerkraut on my permane sandwich. I still say sauerkraut is nasty. I don't
No, you
care
mean
what
coleslaw?
that too. That same
Okay.
thing. It's all nasty. Forget about it. I don't care
Tell you
about
what,
it.
I'm not a coleslaw fan, but I don't mind it because it seems like the permane sandwich coleslaw is essentially just lettuce. So I can deal with it in that context.
I hate it. I hate coleslaw. I think it's sauerkraut. It's all nasty either way. We're going to talk about the defense, which they need to play nasty this week. We'll see if they do so in just a minute. But first, we got to talk to you about our friends at Liquid Death. Now, if you've been seeing in the background here, I did have this Liquid Death can. This is not beer. You may think it's a beer. It looks like a beer, but this is the new mountain spring water brand called Liquid Death. If you're out tailgating, you'll probably see someone crushing a tall boy. It's just like this, but they're completely sober and they're actually just getting more hydrated. Chances are it's just this can of Liquid Death. Now, why is it called Liquid Death? Well, it's a new recyclable tall boy that's a can of actual just mountain spring water that will murder your thirst and bring death to plastic bottles. They donate 10% of the profits from every can to help kill plastic pollution. Plus, they just flat out taste great. And I'm going to just show y'all because I just crack it open right here, and it does taste great. It gets me rehydrated a sec here. Let me take a little sip. That's the freshest water I've had all week. Well, since the last time that I drank one of these on this show. But it's awesome. It's just fresh water out of a can. And again, you're not getting the same kind of plastic taste that could come from your ordinary water brand that you're buying from the store all the time. So get yourself some Liquid Death because you're trying to murder your thirst and you're trying to murder plastic pollution all over our planet. Healthy for you, healthy for the planet, all in one. So go get Liquid Death from your local Target, 7-Eleven, or County Fair, or find a Liquid Death retailer near you with the store locator tool at liquiddeath.com/shore. That's liquiddeath.com/shore. We're also brought to you by MyBookie. It's a big week with a lot of big name quarterbacks throwing down. Lamar Jackson. Everyone's not. There's no team on a bye week, so everyone's throwing down. You're gonna have Lamar Jackson. You're gonna have Tom Brady. You're gonna have Aaron Rodgers. All these guys are going at it. Lamar Jackson's going up against Josh Allen. That's going to be a crazy matchup. But the only place that you should go to put money down on this game is MyBookie, which has super contests, survivor pools, and a double deposit bonus that gives you everything you need to secure the bag. Getting started is simple. Just sign up today by using promo code NSD. That's NSD for North Shore Drive, and you'll double your deposit instantly. That's promo code NSD to double your deposit up to $1,000 with MyBookie. This isn't your grandfather's bookie. This is MyBookie. Put your money where your mouth is and get rewarded for it. Begin your winning season today only at MyBookie. Back here on the North Shore Drive podcast, I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko. I'm sipping on some Liquid Death water over here. But Brian, let's give the Steelers fans their injury update.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we need to see the Steelers defense open a can.
A can of not some water, but something else. That's an even better transition.
Well, you had the segue of the Steelers defense needs to play nasty, so I was just trying to match you there, Chris.
Well, hey, that was a good one. They do need to open up a can this week. It does seem though like it's mostly good news on the injury front. What's the injury report telling you going into this game, Brian?
Yeah, Kello Witherspoon didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. That's a bad sign for him. And I think like seeing him walk off the field the other night and how quickly he was rolled out against the Browns with that hamstring issue, I didn't expect him to come back even with the 10-day turnaround. So it doesn't look like they're going to have him on the outside. But I mean, this secondary is kind of built for this. Levi Wallace can slide seamlessly into there. I had some people asking me on Twitter on Wednesday why Wallace wasn't starting over Witherspoon in the first place. I don't mind Akello Witherspoon. I mean, he hasn't been great so far this year. The play to Nelson Aguilar is one that he'll want to forget. But I think overall you have to appreciate the size and speed, length that he has on the outside. Levi Wallace, though, has a lot of that to his game as well. And I looked this up. He had a pick week 2 last year, and he hasn't picked one off yet this year. So he said he's itching for it. He also intercepted one later in the season in 2021 against the Jets. Wasn't against Zach Wilson. That's when they were starting our Post-Gazette colleague Mike White at quarterback. So But Levi Wallace has experience playing against the Jets twice a year in the AFC East. So I think you'll see him on the outside and obviously more Cam Sutton on the outside, which limits your depth a little bit, but, maybe more Arthur Millette in the slot this game. And that's kind of how they're going to have to roll defensively. It looks like Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to be good to go on the back end, practice fully Wednesday and Thursday, which is always, you never know when a guy's in the concussion protocol, how long that might take. You think back to preseason, Joe Haig was in there for a really long time. So those are always tricky, but it seems like all signs are pointing up for Minkah. And I also talked to Presley Harvin on Thursday after practice and said, okay, you went out and you punted on Wednesday with that hip discomfort that Mike Tomlin described. How's the leg feeling? He said he feels good. He's going to be ready to roll Sunday, and no concerns, although he was pleased to see his old bloke Jordan Berry back in the locker room as a precaution.
Hey, the old bloke Jordan Berry. That's pretty good.
Out there waking on my kicks, mate.
Oh my gosh. Is that your Australian? Is that what that is?
That's the best I can do. I mean, I picked up a little bit. I cut the last three punters that I've covered have been Australians, in Jordan Berry and then Kirk Christodoulou from Pitt.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, plenty of conversations with the boys over the years, and pick up a little bit of the accent.
Oh, you're killing me, man. Okay. I'm sorry. I lost my focus entirely with this Australian accent. But I want to get back to the Minkah Fitzpatrick part, because whereas I was saying is mostly good. Ahkello Witherspoon being out isn't good, because even if you feel like Levi Wallace is the better cornerback, the whole idea is that the three of them, Wallace, Sutton, and Witherspoon, were heady players. They may not be the best cornerback. Neither one of them is a CB1 that would take out a number one receiver consistently in a game. But they're all smart veterans, and they allow you to do so many more switches on the back end. Losing one can kind of slow that down. But the big guy that puts it all together back there is Minkah Fitzpatrick. If he is indeed back this game, to me, that is the best news and the biggest news. You'll take the trade of Witherspoon for Fitzpatrick if you're a Steelers fan in that situation. And Brian, I think this needs to be a week. They didn't get any turnovers last week against the Browns. And I saw your quote from Devin Bush about the run defense. But this needs to be a week that A, the run defense returns, and B, the turnovers return. This needs to be a game where they show, hey, Steelers defensive football, it is indeed here. It wasn't the last game that's going to define the season. It was the first game when we had more time. We were more rested and ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd necessarily call it a must win like you and Jason did the other day, because what happens if you don't win? Cancel the rest of the season. I'm not a huge fan of the term in general, but I'll call it a get right game for the Steelers. Okay. How about that? Because you look at what the Jets are not doing well on offense. They're not really running the ball that well. They're turning it over a lot. I mean, these should be two areas where the Steelers can seize upon that. They made a little tweak on the D-line with Montravius Adams apparently going to get more snaps at nose tackle. I don't know how much they're even going to play their base defense against the Jets, but I've actually got a story, it'll be up on the website later today about how much they are rotating defensively. And, losing Ahkello Witherspoon will limit some of those different personnel groupings. But so far through 3 games, Chris, no team has used more different lineups on defense than the Steelers. They're at 116 of them. So, just for reference, on the other end of the spectrum, I think the Jaguars have used the fewest at like 44. So that tells you they're running a lot of different packages out there. They're trying to lean on their depth. Part of that is not having TJ Watt, but they're going to try to disguise some things, confuse Zach Wilson. You would expect there's going to be some rust for the second-year guy in this game. And as long as they can deal, I think, with his mobility, getting out of the pocket, then this should be a game where really they can feast on a Jets offense that has some nice young pieces, but I would hardly say they have come together and gelled just yet.
I agree. They still have to come together, but I think this is a chance for them to do that. This is a run defense that ranks like 26th in the NFL. I found it interesting that Devin Bush, we couldn't get Devin Bush to talk much during training camp. He was hard to get, and
it was pulling teeth to get this quote the other day as well.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like I saw you get that quote, and I was like, Devin Bush spoke. Whoa, what was his demeanor? And one, explain the quote I'm talking about with him and the run defense. But what's his demeanor? Do you see after just a few games?
Yeah, I mean his demeanor. I think he's always kind of on the defense a little bit. I think he's naturally concerned that any reporter who wants to come talk to him is going to maybe question his his lack of playmaking or, wonder why he's not doing more out there. So I think he's always a little prickly to deal with these days. But I was talking to him about what I just mentioned, all the rotating that they're doing on defense. How difficult is that for someone who's playing in the middle? The guys in front of you are constantly shifting. The guys behind you are swapping in and out. So, we talked about that a little bit. And then, he said that he expects the Jets to try to, because I said, what have you seen from the Jets? He said, well, we think they're going to try to run on us because what team wouldn't at this point? And I said, do you take that as a challenge, or do you look at it as like, man, we need to try to fix the run defense here, and that's hard to do 3 games in when you're not really hitting in practice? But he said, no, it's obviously a challenge. It's a mano-a-mano type of deal when a team wants to line up and do that to you. So he said separately, it is a challenge for each one of them to get off blocks and beat the man in front of them, which I think is basically something that Mike Tomlin has been talking about too the last couple of years dealing with this. Sometimes you just got to whoop your block and go make the play. But he said collectively they all need to work together to be better against the run. Michael Carter and Breece Hall from the Jets, nice young backs. Neither one of them is Nick Chubb, and probably not even Kareem Hunt. So this needs to be a week where if you're the Steelers, you buckle down and you make sure you smash the run and make Zach Wilson beat you through the air.
Exactly. And when he tries to beat you through the air, get after him. This needs to be the Jets are down to a 3rd string left tackle, a 2nd string right tackle. This needs to be a week that Alex Highsmith continues his streak of having the most sacks in the NFL, and that Malik Reed shows up and makes more plays this week.
I'll give you a sleeper name to watch on defense this week, Chris. I think DeMarvin Leal is going to get more involved. Okay, we saw a lot of that against the Patriots with that package of the kind of the 3-3-5 look with 3 down linemen. Didn't see as much of it against the Browns, which surprised me because
how big they are.
I figured you'd want some more big bodies out there, but I think they liked what they saw from Leal a couple weeks ago against New England, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see him log some more of those snaps in place of Malik Reed, and maybe he can get in there and get his first NFL sack.
That would be interesting. I've liked DeMarvin Leal all camp and all practice. I think that he is going to be something special for the Steelers. If he does get that in this game, it'd be a good sign for Steelers to see a defensive lineman that's young coming up in their system playing well. We're going to give you our final preview for Steelers Jets this Sunday, 1 p.m. in Acrisure Stadium in just a minute here. But first, we got to talk to you guys about our friends at Yinzers in the Berg. Yinzers, listen up. With the Steelers campaign off and running, it's time to show your support for your black and gold. And it's easy. All you have to do is go to the Yinzers in the Berg with 2 legendary shops that are available to you in the Strip District, and they have a growing online store. You can get Steelers apparel, Penguins apparel, Pirates apparel, even Pitt stuff, all of it there at Yinzers in the Berg or yinzerspgh.com. Be sure to go there because Yinzers in the Berg is the place to go to for Pittsburgh sports apparel, accessories, and much, much more. We'll see you in the Strip District, or check them out online at their website, yinzerspgh.com. That's yinzerspgh.com for all your Pittsburgh sports apparel. Back here on the North Shore Drive podcast, I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko. It's preview time. Now, let's go over a few things here, Brian. This is the first game that Vegas has given the odds to the Pittsburgh Steelers as favorites. On mybookie.ag right now, the Steelers are given a -3, but that is usually a toss-up if you're the home team because home teams normally just get a 3-point advantage automatically. So you're looking at
the Steelers and Jets are on level playing field if they were at a neutral site, basically. They think on paper 2 very similar teams.
Exactly. And the over-under for the game on mybookie.ag is 41.5. I don't know about you, man. That might still be too high for me. Like I think this could be very much a game where both teams end up in the teens.
I think the Steelers offense, and I feel like I probably said this last week too, or I guess it would have been 2 weeks ago now.
Right.
I feel like the Steelers offense is going to make some strides this week because as much as I just said the Jets attack should give a chance to the Steelers to get right on defense, they're not really playing that well on the other side of the ball either. I mean, you and I both covered Jordan Whitehead, I think, at Pitt in various capacities. But, he seems to be off to a little bit of a slow start. So is their other safety, LaMarcus Joyner. Sauce Gardner, the first-round pick at corner. I mean, I think he's pretty solid. But It just seems like they're not really sure what their identity is on defense right now under Robert Saleh up there in New York. So I think this needs to be a week 2 for the Steelers to get on track. I think you'll see some manufactured touches for George Pickens. I think you'll see Pat Freiermuth. It's not going to be the fourth quarter when he gets his first target in this one. I'm pretty safe saying that. And I think Deontay Johnson, of course, is going to do his thing. So, you wonder at that point who doesn't get to eat. Maybe Chase Claypool is kind of the one who I'm not confident in him getting a ton of looks and touches while the other guys try to get more involved. But, I think the Steelers offense has some success this week against the Jets. I really do believe that.
The money line on this game, according to mybookie.ag, is Steelers -168, Jets +137. Brian, let's get down to this game matchups wise, and you sound confident about the Steelers and that they're going to be able to do something on offense and maybe even on defense. What's the key factor in this game that you think gets the Steelers the W or gets them their big advantage that holds them over? And what's your final score prediction for how this game plays out?
Yeah, I think using the middle of the field, if you're Mitch Trubisky, is going to be pretty key, whether that is Freiermuth or whether that is expanding the route tree a bit for George Pickens or Deontay Johnson for that matter. So I don't know that it'll be easy to run the ball at them. I know that the Steelers offensive line thought they found a little bit of a rhythm last week against the Browns, especially in that first half. But I think if there is a strength of the Jets defense, it's up front with Sheldon Rankins, Quinnen Williams, Carl Lawson.
Yeah.
I was getting mixed up. Who's the other Lawson? Shaq Lawson.
He's somewhere else. But also CJ Mosley, former Raven at linebacker.
Right. Yeah. So they are going to be, they're probably going to be without their other starting linebacker, Quincy Williams. He's on the injury report this week, but John Franklin Myers, another defensive end for them, who's been pretty solid. Looks like he's going to be good to go with his toe injury. So that I do think that's where the strength lies for the Jets. I think they can be had on the back end. Specifically that slot corner, Michael Carter. They have 2 Michael Carters. I think he's going to try to man up on Chase Claypool, especially on those possession downs. And, that should allow Pat Freiermuth to get off a little bit. So, I think that Mitch Trubisky is going to have a better week. He's got a little bit longer time now in between to go over the film and figure out where they need to get right offensively. And, like you alluded to earlier, they need to before the sledding really gets tough here with these upcoming opponents. And, I'm going to go with Steelers getting a W at home at Acrisure Stadium. I'll say 23-17 with Zach Wilson being a little bit rusty coming off that injury.
Ooh, 23-17. That's still the under of the 41
still the under, but it's the Steelers covering. So
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I see this one. I'm just not really impressed by the Jets, and I know the Steelers haven't been all that impressive either. But I feel like having the home crowd behind them, and I don't know that they'll be chanting Trubisky, but I think having the home crowd behind them on both sides of the ball and having a little bit longer time to prepare for this one will go a long way.
I'd be scared of the crowd if a Pittsburgh crowd was ever chanting Mitch. That would be I would ask, okay, what alternative timeline have I jumped down to be?
Well, we're getting close to Halloween. It could be some sort of zombie apocalypse if that happens.
That would be what it is. It would be a zombie apocalypse if it were that situation. I'm with you though. I do think the Steelers win and cover. I'm gonna go a little bit lower in the score though. I'm gonna say 20-16. I think the offense. I think you are gonna see a more efficient offense. I don't think you'll see nearly as many 3 and outs. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna eat more clock. But I also think you're gonna see just a couple. You're gonna see just a couple touchdown drives and then a couple field goals. But then you'll see the defense setting them up with good opportunities. I think this is a week where that Jets offensive line. They're not playing well together yet, and they're down so many guys. They lost Mekhi Becton before the season even started. Then they lost Dwayne Brown, who they brought in to kind of help that situation out. And George Fant, who was backing up Dwayne Brown, is out. Now you're down to Connor McDermott, and this is a guy who I was talking to a Jets insider guy, John Butchko, and he's like, Chris, he's like, whatever you think the worst Steelers offensive lineman is, I think worse than that. And I was like, that bad? Like, he was like, that bad. So this is, and he's going to be lining up at left tackle right where Alex Highsmith is lined up. That was when I gave the Acrisure fan advantage. That was my key matchup for the Steelers. this needs to be Alex Highsmith's week to eat. And I have no doubt that the Jets will try to help him out and give him some tight ends and some running backs over there. But if Highsmith is getting double teamed, that's going to mean that Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, Malik Reed, all those other guys, they're going to be getting one-on-ones. Somebody's got to win them, get off the blocks, and get to Zach Wilson because he does get skittish in the pocket.
And with him having not played since the preseason, how about bringing a few blitzes here and there if you're Terrell Austin, whether it's Devin Bush, Robert Spillane, maybe even we see some more of that 3 inside linebacker package with Miles Jack, Devin Bush, and Robert Spillane all out there. Again, just to sort of confuse Zach Wilson. You won't know where the pressure's coming from. And let's just be honest, you're I think my favorite stat is 9-1 when TJ Watt either doesn't play at all, leaves early, or is in his first game back from injury. So you need to scheme around the loss of Watt. So I think you'll see a little bit more of that too.
We will certainly see what they dial up. They need to end that streak, and if it doesn't end this week, it might not end for another month with the teams that are coming up after that. But this, like you said, this could be a get right game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if they get right, I think it could signal a bit of a turnaround, or at least a kind of, hey, things aren't falling off the cliff as much as people are making it out to be. But we'll see on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium, where all of our Pittsburgh Post-Gazette sport beat writers will be on hand in the press box at Acrisure Stadium. Brian, thanks so much for joining me on the show. Let me know I can find you, follow you, and what else you got cooking.
Yeah, Brian Batko on Twitter. Kind of mentioned it earlier. Story today on the defense coming out and some, why essentially they're using so many different sub packages and personnel groupings, what edge they think that gives them, how it might be able to help them throughout the rest of the season. And I've also got my Steelers mailbag. It'll either be online by the time you listen to this, or it'll be coming soon. Always some interesting questions from readers that I get to address in there. So make sure to check it out.
Absolutely. Do check it out. Brian, Ray, Jerry, they all do amazing work on the Steelers beat. Do check them out. I'm Chris Carter, host of the North Shore Drive podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. You can also check out this show, the North Shore Drive podcast, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. If you watch this video on YouTube, please hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday shows, as well as our weekend shows where we have Paul Zeiss and Adam Bittner giving you their live reactions as soon as the game is done. Also, if you want to read more of my work, I cover Pitt athletics with Noah Hiles over there on the Pitt beat for the Post-Gazette. Go to post-gazette.com to get both our work on Pitt and Brian and the guys' work on the Steelers. Thanks again for checking out the North Shore Drive podcast. We'll be back on your screens and in your ears Monday, breaking down what happened with Steelers Jets.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For 6 months of digital access to post-gazette.com for just $6, click the link down below in the description.